Yeah, good morning, everyone. Welcome to EUDR working group meeting arranged by TDUK, and this is number 12. Just a reminder that this meeting is kind of a subset of the TDUK Responsible Sourcing Subcommittee. It came as part of a working group initiative to try streamline our approach and understanding and awareness. So it's a collaborative platform for everyone to go through ideas, challenges, solutions all together. So and it's welcome to TDUK members and non-members as well. So we've got a mixed bag here of different people across the supply chain, and hopefully people still finding these meetings of use. So a quick reminder of the Competitions Act. So just in this sphere, just means no discussion of sensitive market topics, pricing, anything along those lines. We'll have to you just report it to me if you do think anything is bordering on that. But we'll have to potentially end the meeting if we do go into that territory. We shouldn't do with this subject matter, but there's always that danger. So yeah, just a introduction as well, just for any new members. We've got Zhao here, who facilitates on behalf of TDUK, who puts in all the work and arranging our guest Jessica, who's come and joined us today. And then myself, and the reason I'm talking is because I chair the Responsible Sourcing Subcommittee, and I work for Hanson Plough, one of its members. So kind of structure for today is to go into Jessica's presentation from the World Resource Institute, covering a variety of topics, but focused on Global Forest Watch Pro, I believe. And then we will kind of, Jessica said she's open to Q&A throughout, so just put your hand up if you have a question you'd like to discuss, and then we will cover some generic EUDR Q&A and any other questions people have encountered since our last meeting at the end. So Jessica, if you're ready, happy to move on to your presentation there.
Oh, thank you very much, Joe, and thank you very much for this opportunity to present. Good morning to you all. My name is Jessica Immelman from Global Forest Watch Pro. I am the Customer Success Manager. My background is basically prior to working at WRI, which has been for just over a year now. I was working in the startup arena with companies leveraging remote sensing data technologies for monitoring, reporting, and verification. So this was a natural switch for me. But with that, I'm going to actually present screen, and we're going to dive into a brief presentation followed by a demo of Global Forest Watch Pro. So please, as Joe mentioned, interrupt me if you have any burning questions. I'll let you know if it's going to be covered within the subject matter later on in the presentation or not. So with that, yes, an introduction to analytics that drive impact. Global Forest Watch Pro is a product of the World Resources Institute. We're a global NGO with 9 locations worldwide. We have over 2,000 staff working on a variety of topics, from energy through to cities, economies, and of course, food, land, and water. So established over 40 years ago now, we have WRI, under that, the Land and Carbon Lab. And we really see this as the innovation hub for geospatial monitoring within WRI. And nestled there, we have our flagship Global Forest Watch. This was established back in 2014 as the premier open source reference for forest monitoring. Today, it's leveraged by academics, researchers, journalists, anyone who's looking for a more ad hoc location by location analysis. There's a lot of freedom to utilize any data set or layer that you're looking for and essentially monitor locations over time. And within Global Forest Watch, it became very clear in 2019 that we wanted to actually cleave away a subset of the numerous data sets available in GFW to develop Global Forest Watch Pro, geared towards the soft commodity supply chain risk and compliance reporting objectives within the market. Now, Global Forest Watch Pro is essentially different from our public edition in that it is geared towards soft commodity supply chain actors, really all the way up and downstream. So we work with a lot of producers, cooperatives, various aggregation points through to operators, traders, and then we even reference by retailers and distributors. So if you're in the supply chain and your commodities are going to be looked at from a compliance or regulatory perspective, we do see engagement across the board. The Global Forest Watch Pro is really a separate system in that it was developed for scale as well. So as I mentioned, with our public edition, you can upload location by location or a few at a time. Whereas here, you can upload up to 150,000 locations at a time. We also offer tailored analytics, so various combinations of data sets brought together by our data scientists and well documented. The methodologies are open source, so you're able to recreate these analyses, although they're there for you, so why do that? But what's important here is you understand what's going on and that whoever is auditing you has the ability to do the same. And then finally, we have the ability to use the application, but also integrate Global Forest Watch Pro within your own systems via an API integration. Now, as I mentioned before, we are able to be used in line with voluntary and regulatory compliance. As I dive deeper into our various analyses available, you'll see where. But what's important to note here is backed by WRI as a premier knowledge institute, we are referenced very often by the European Commission as a knowledge partner, trying to best understand how to navigate regulations, not at the point of creating the regulation, but also at the point of implementation. And Global Forest Watch has been referenced as an open source tool in line with EUDR. So important to keep in mind here. So how do we actually sit in this growing and tumultuous market at the moment? I think it's really important to look at us from that backing of WRI. We provide analyses that rely on open and public trusted data sources that are well documented and completely transparent. As I said, you're relying on the same information that your auditors will be relying on, and no one can really argue outside of that. It's independently verifiable, so you can recreate these yourselves if you choose. So no black box AI here, you're getting what you're getting. And of course, science-based insights that are supportive and in line with the European deforestation regulation. So we have, for example, data sets that distinguish between, so base maps of what is forest as of 2020, that distinguish between natural forest and planted forest. And we'll get into that a little bit later. It differs from our public edition in that it's free to start. For example, you have 5,000 analyses, of which you have 3 analyses per location to choose, as well as 100 million hectares of analyses available to you every year. Now, for downstream users who tend to be a little bit more demanding, and so insofar as what they would need to reach their analysis goals, we ask for a contribution. We do have a fee model. I won't go over that today, but very happy to answer any questions one-on-one. Please feel free to reach out to me. My email will be shared with you. We also have fees for APIs and offer highly supportive membership options too. So ultimately, we are a benchmark and sanity check for due diligence processes. We're not saying we're the only approach. It's an and conversation, but this is a really great place to start and see how far you can get to reach your risk assessment goals. We are aligned with global standards and frameworks. WRI, being the powerhouse that it is involved with the accountability framework, similarly with the Greenhouse Gas Protocol and Science-Based Targets Initiative. So all of these have been integrated into the ideation of our analyses within Global Forest Watch Pro, as well as the development of our data set. So what exactly are we bringing to the table here for the analyses that you could use for EUDR and other voluntary compliance standards? So we have 3 analyses available. The first 2 of the 3 are the most commonly used by our users. So the first is the post-2020 risk assessment. And I'll go through this in detail a little bit later, but essentially here we're relying on forest-based maps as of 2020. We overlaying our tree cover loss layer. We then bring in additional contextual layers like indigenous communities and protected lands. And then finally, our accountability framework initiative aligned negligible risk map. This is not an EUDR negligible risk map, but definitely a good reference point. There's a lot of documentation to help you understand how to manage risk and assess the risk based on the ranking. Now, as I mentioned, the post-2020 relies on our tree cover loss layer. This is an annual layer. This is where our recent deforestation alerts analysis, the second analysis, comes into play. So let's say you have harvested this year. The TCL layer is only valid to the end of last year. This is where the recent deforestation alerts will be your point of reference. This is going to show any alerts at 3 confidence levels on each location. And this will help you discern how best to attack a risk or compliance check. And then finally, we have our third post-2000 forest change. This is where we usually see our users looking at voluntary schemes like Rainforest Alliance, for example, referring to this because it goes all the way back to 2001. It also relies on the tree cover loss layer, but it has also additional contextual and regional data sets. So for example, for palm oil producers, there's a lot of palm-specific data sets, but we also have country-specific data sets, which could be interesting to you when it comes to EUDR compliance, considering the country or local compliance requirement. Any questions, actually, before I push on? We're good? All right.
Good.
Great. So what exactly are we looking at insofar as the map availability within Global Forest Watch Pro? We have 38 data sets integrated into Pro as of now, but it is always growing. We are looking to improve and enhance what is available to you. So starting off, we have our first column, the forest change data sets. This is where for EUDR, you'll be activating the first tree cover loss layer. So this is the Hansen layer, quite famously utilized and referenced in public and private sectors, as well as looking further down to alerts, the integrated deforestation alerts. This is a combination of 3 alert systems and can bridge that gap between the last tree cover loss layer data updates. Second column, we have the land cover data. Typically with EUDR, we're seeing the Science-Based Target Network natural forest map being activated. This is an important map because it differentiates between natural forest and non-natural forest. Non-natural forest being reported or known plantations or agroforestry plots. Now, this is always growing with each update, so it's not entirely complete worldwide, but know that this is continuing to enhance. And what's important about that differentiator is that if it comes back positive for forest loss or potential deforestation, yet it falls within a non-natural forest classification within the Science-Based Target Network map, you can reasonably state this to be a false positive, in that it is falling within plantation. The second map is the JRC, so the Earth Observatory JRC Forest Cover Map. We usually see this to be a little bit more liberal. I'll get into this a little bit later. We have land use maps, perhaps not as applicable to you. We have, of course, the contextual maps, the protected areas, indigenous and community lands. And then finally, the regional and country-specific data on the right here. You'll see a lot of Latin American data sets. We've got Cameroon and Southeast Asia. This will continue to grow as we continue partnerships and projects with various stakeholders worldwide to integrate the country-specific data sets into Pro. So if you have any ideas or any interesting opportunities, please do reach out. WRI is always interested in collaborating. All right, so you've selected what you would like to have analyzed in Pro. Essentially, this is just we'll get into this nitty-gritty later, but just a high-level view here. You're going to have your locations listed. You can initially see whether there's overlap with tree cover loss, indigenous territories, protected areas, and yes, no. You can get to the specifics insofar how many hectares are actually being compromised, or the percentage, which is really fantastic and helpful when you consider the thresholds that you're going to set for yourself. You can look into a detailed diagnostic and, of course, the detailed CSV file downloads. I'll get into that later. And, of course, investigate your locations on the map. As a mid-view, we also offer visuals or graphics to showcase the various overlaps with your locations. And this is really helpful insofar as that reporting either internally or to various stakeholders. Now, I mentioned before, we were going to go layer by layer through the post-2020 risk assessment. This is part of that tailored analytics provision that Pro offers versus our flagship proposition. And here, essentially, you will be importing your I'm sorry, can you see my cursor? or do I need to press?
Yes,
Yeah.
Jessica.
Okay. So you will import your location. Of course, with EUDR, anything greater than 4 hectares will need to be the specific polygon itself. You'll then activate the SBTN or forest base map as of 2020. You, of course, can also activate the JRC. Both are reported in your final report. The tree cover loss layer then comes into play, showcasing any tree cover loss within your location. If in the case you are looking to report after the last tree cover loss layer update at the end of 2024, in this case, you can activate the integrated deforestation alerts to see what's going on there. You'll have insights into the protected areas and Indigenous communities. Those are 2 layers that you can look at. And if after this you're feeling a bit uneasy, you can do a visual check using our 5-meter resolution monthly planet imagery available within Global Forest Watch Pro to do a comparison as of the end of 2020, so your baseline, with strategic points between now and then. So you can do a visual inspection, screenshot it, add it to your report. Maybe you're able to distinguish, hey, this is very clear that it is human, it's clear cut, or I'm seeing some blackening here. There was reported to be a fire. This wasn't conversion. This was natural degradation and not intended for timber plantation. So in this case, we're still compliant and we can report and tell that story. Finally, a hat tip through to our commodity and region-specific data sets, as well as the country and governmental data sets. So this is the typical workflow. I will show you, we'll step through it, as well as what's reported in your CSV reports. Now, why am I not navigating through to the next? Here we go. Right. So the base maps, this is really important to understand and be able to speak to documents. The first, of course, is what is highly recommended in line with EUDR right now. It's the JRC map. This is aligned, of course, with the UN FAO definition of aligned forest. Excuse me. As I mentioned before, quite liberal we've found in the definition of forest, and we'll show you some examples of that a little bit later. The second base map is our science-based target network map, which differentiates most importantly between natural and non-natural forest. It aligns to the same definitions of what forest is. A difference here is that it is at 30 by 30 meter resolution originally, but it has been resampled down to 10 meter to meet the JRC layer in Global Forest Watch Pro. This is all documented, as I said, and relayed in the methodology, as well as any limitations of any data set. Those are outlined by our data scientists. And then finally, the tree cover loss layer, the crux of what we're looking for. This has got a slightly different definition of forest. It's actually a little bit more granular, but that's okay with us. Why I put this up now is because this is at 30 by 30 meters, resampled down to 10. But at this point, it's important because in the discussion around accuracy today, very often you'll see that service providers are talking about resolution. This is one drop in the bucket when it comes to the interpretation or definition of accuracy. For example, in a 30 by 30 meter pixel, within this methodology, it requires a flip of the switch. Hey, we see forest loss here at only 50% of that pixel being disrupted. So that's an important distinguisher. Another is that within the methodology, they have built-in validation processes over a 3-month rolling period to ensure that it is high confidence forest loss. We're not saying, hey, we saw something randomly at one given time and therefore we've triggered it. No, we've double, triple checked to make sure that we are confident telling you that this was a forest loss instance. Note, forest loss, not deforestation, because deforestation is defined very specifically and can only be determined after investigation. Right, so all of these layers come together. The overlap is what we're interested in. And most importantly, the overlap with your location. So Global Forest Watch Pro will accept forest boundaries. So the polygons, as I mentioned, for EUDR, that's really important that is brought into the system. You can also put in a point radius supply shed or a sub-national jurisdiction, depending on how you want to tackle your risk assessments. In some cases, it's not possible to do polygon assessments. Now, when you do, your polygons will be in the system, and we will see the distinct overlap. This green, it's forest. The pink, that is forest loss. There's 3 locations I'd like to point out here. The first being an obvious area of what we can now say deforestation. Why? Because it's very geometric. It's unlikely we've got a beetle or fire or anything happening here. This is quite clearly a man-made intervention. On the left here in the yellow is a potential area of deforestation, selective logging, or degradation. We don't know if it's man-made or natural. And then we've got this little small-scale deforestation here, and we'll investigate that in a bit. Please note, we have the ability to adjust the scale to whatever year period you're looking to assess your forests within. So in this case, EUDR, so it's 2021 onwards. So what does this look like when we go to our planet satellite data? Okay, so we're going to set that to December 2020 because that's the baseline. And we're going to see, okay, this was nice and green. So was this. And this little area, okay, we see activity there. What could have been detected, honestly? And then we compare it to August 2024, and it's clear. Especially in the red circle, we see that, okay, what was nice, lush, and green is now gone. That is a clear deforestation case that can be screenshot, put in, and said, sorry, producer, this is a violation, do better. On the left here, we've got that degradation area, and it's unclear, really, when you just look at this in isolation. But if you, and I'm going to toggle between the previous and the latter, when you look at it in context of the rest of the area, you see a thinning out of all the forest. And this can indicate that this is a natural occurrence, and therefore reasonably, you feel with X confidence that this is not an infringement in the EUDR. It's natural, it's not man-made. And then finally, we can zoom into this little spot. What on earth were they looking at? So this is classified as natural forest, but in actual fact, these are green barriers that have been adjusted for cut-throughs, maybe for a truck or a tractor, but these have been detected as deforestation. And typically this would be a no-go with the EUDR. So it's also really important to properly and accurately define your sourcing locations. It would be a different story if they had just drawn their polygons like this, but in this case, they were all inclusive, which we appreciate, but it's important that we then honor the natural forest system. That said, there's also another discussion around thresholds. What threshold of forest loss is acceptable to you? This can differ by commodity. It can also differ by region based on the risk levels. We're seeing a lot of users saying, okay, 1% is okay. We've seen others doing, okay, 6%, and we're going to improve over time. And others saying we have a 0% rule. We're not allowing anything. So these are all things that you need to work into your due diligence statements. But I also want to point this out because it's nice that the TCL layer, when we have the accuracy discussion, it picks up issues like this. So the final step, of course, is if you're not getting covered by the TCL layer, you can always rely on our deforestation alerts. As I mentioned before, it has 3 confidence levels. The first being one satellite picked something up. The second being it picked it up twice. And the third being, no, multiple satellites have picked this up now. We're pretty confident that this is a deforestation issue or a forest loss issue. Most of our users we're seeing are using high confidence only. Others are toggling down to mid confidence. Just know that our alerts are a very dynamic alert system. It changes over time. So it may start as a, just a confidence and then move to high and then highest. So keep that in mind, that they will change and fluctuate over time as you receive the results. Finally, adding some contextual data, we've got the indigenous and community lands. We have different classifications of these lands as well. So it's all very well to say, okay, I have my location, I know it's sitting in forest, there is deforestation there, but there's other aspects to take into consideration. Indigenous and community as being one of them. And it's really up to you to build into your due diligence the rationale around how to treat these and how to manage that risk, as well as how to kind of temper that risk per classification, if you want to temper it at all. Of course, WRI, we encourage you to always seek free and prior informed consent from communities, whether it is acknowledged by government, like this first part, or not acknowledged by government. We do think that they are all valid. But you can always look at the methodology and any recommendations. This is a landmark data set. Landmark is also from WRI, so I can always connect you if you have questions. And then finally, our negligible risk map. This is what it looks like. As I mentioned, AFI defined. This is not the EUDR map, but what's really great about this resource is that in the information and the source materials, they really say, okay, in high risk areas, this is what we recommend you should take into account. So if you're really stumped on where to start, this is a really great place. So with that, the final step is, of course, I want the results and I want a report. So all nice, but the report time. We offer the reports in a mid-view. You can compare between SBTN, JRC, what the agreement is. This is a nice example. For example, the SBTN map says there was 228 hectares of natural forest coverage. That JRC map, 336. Big difference. So which base map would you like to utilize to your end, but keep it consistent? If you want to use both, then set up a clear rationale. The negligible risk, of course, non-negligible risk, meaning that it's not negligible. So please take extra care. And then finally, the detailed CSV report. This is basically a zip file of spreadsheets offering location-specific and accumulated insights into your locations. So we have 3 locations here. We'll go through these in a sec. And they'll outline the locations by year and by map. Here you can see 2 of the locations are showing worrying loss of forest. 1 completely greenlit. You're good to go. So this is the level of data interpretation you can get to within Global Forest Watch Pro. All right. I'm actually going to jump across to a demo at the moment, but before I do, any questions from anyone?
So guys, please feel free to raise your hand and turn on your camera, or please feel free to use the chat box as well. Any questions for Jessica? I appreciate that this can be quite technical issue, so please do take your time. Any questions are welcome. Thank you, Jessica, as well. Shall we?
All right. Push on. All right, so where we've landed now is the landing page, or the list landing page of Global Forest Watch Pro. And what I mean by this is where you will import your lists. You'll be able to see all of your lists, and you can organize your lists by folders. That can be quite helpful if you're looking for various batch deliverables or regions. Up to you how you would like to manage them. I would also like to point out our Global Forest Watch pre-processed list. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, each account has a certain amount of granted free usage. These lists are pre-processed, meaning that you can go and get insights from them at this point from the administrative area, for example, a risk assessment or tree cover loss, and it will not use your usage. We've done this because it was actually advantageous for us to run these global or heavy data sets once and then have you just pull the information versus calling our system the entire time. At the end of the day, we need to keep our lights on, and that's also why we have this cost recovery approach with the freemium model. All right, so you know they're there. Please feel free to explore. What's important here is adding your locations. As I mentioned, you can add up to 150,000 locations at any given time, or one by one if you so choose. One by one, you can draw a polygon directly on the map.
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad, not bad.
Oh, sorry. And then you can also add a point. So enter an address with a radius, and then that be your location. But what I'm going to run you through today is our approach to, let me move you out the way, to uploading a file. So you will go to upload a file. Please familiarize yourself with the different kinds of files that we accept. Shape files, GeoJSON, KML, point shape files, and so on. When you go into the resource, you can download our template. Now, our application has a language. It's got to have a very specific structure or way to understand your information. It's very simple to align your information with it, but just so you know, download the template. We then have instructions that you can connect through to in our help center to understand how best to align your information with our template. So that's a self-guide there. Once you've formatted your template to ours, you will upload that into the system. And our system will do an initial check. Essentially, what our system's looking for is, have you got anything in the ocean? Or are your polygons overlapping on themselves or intersecting? Then it will say, okay, we have an issue with this or that, and we've got instructions on a way to configure that better for yourselves. All right, so your upload, in this case, it is Timber, and we're just going to do a test from today. And I'm going to select these two because for me, EUDR, in fact, you know what? I want a country-specific data set as well because I'm a little bit worried, and I know that Global Forest Watch Pro covers Brazil. So next. We move on, you can save it as a draft. This is a really nice feature when you want to add extra locations a little bit later, or just check, sanity check that your locations are in the system, that they're drawing on the map in the places that you want them to, and then you can run them later, or you could submit them straight away. In this case, I'm going to save it as a draft. And I have already run some things for you, so not to worry. You'll then navigate back to your locations. And then you can go and select your specific data that you would like to look at. Now here we have the locations uploaded in draft form. However, I have them that have been run. Now we have the 3 locations shown here. We are currently in the post-2020 risk assessment. You can also toggle through to the post-2000 forest change. But for the risk assessment here, we're looking at the area size. Yes, that checks out. Okay. 2 of the locations are, in fact, overlapping with forest loss. Indigenous communities, we're good. Protected areas, all right. We need to double check that one. Like I said earlier, you can also look at hectares. How much is, in fact, affected? And actually very helpful, the threshold, so the percentage. This location may not even matter based on what threshold you set for yourself. If it's 1%, then you're good. If it's a 0%, a zero tolerance approach, then okay, some justification needs to be done here. Here, we need to have a look. So typically, you'll then navigate through to your list diagnostic if you want to do a little bit more of an in-depth look into, let's say, comparing SBTN or JRC. SBTN here is stating that natural forest coverage is covering these areas, JRC 106 and 12. Okay, so big difference here. JRC is a little bit more liberal, as I said. Another viewpoint to consider, and this is those visuals, in the post-2000 forest change, we have country-specific data sets. And here we've got visuals that support those views, so you can, over time, check what tree cover loss or protected area overlap has occurred in your locations. You can toggle through to the time frame of interest for yourself on different forest types or land types, and then look at regional data sets as well. So Protus, for example, or the Brazil biomes. This is quite helpful to best understand visually to report back to your internal teams or to partners. And then finally, how do I move this job? I'm sorry, I'm trying to move the control panel at the, oh, done so. Okay, but what we're really interested in is investigating these locations on the map. Now you'll see these 3 locations are situated here in Brazil. Zooming into the first of the 3, I just need to move you guys over quick. Whoops. The first of the three, we see the outline here. When it comes to what is forest, the JRC map seems to identify this as a plantation, more or less. The SBTN map definitively does so. Remember, the non-natural forest classification. What's important now is understanding if there's tree cover loss, and yes, there was. In this case, we've toggled through, as I mentioned earlier, you can go all the way back in time if you like. But we are actually just going to keep it to 2021. And here, it would make sense that forest loss would be detected, but it's on a non-natural forest region, so it's a false positive in this sense. We did see that there were no overlaps in this particular area of WDPA, so the Protected Area or Indigenous Territories map. But what is important to consider here is that there does look like there is a little bit of loss on natural forest, these little spots. So this is something that can be investigated further, but also based on your thresholds, right? At the end of the day, if it's less than 1% and that falls within the acceptable realm of reality for you, fine. Now, reviewing the second location, we have, of course, JRC. It's classified a lot more of this location as natural forest. Let's check the SBTN map. Little bit clearer here. SBTN acknowledges this plantation as a non-natural forest or pre-existing plantation as of 2020. So this is a nice consideration of the difference. That said, what is the tree cover loss here? Okay, we're seeing a more or less complete clearance of that location with speckled overlap with natural forest. And this is, I think, important also, understanding, listen, we've got some big swaths of natural forest in here. Contacting your producer, getting a better understanding of what this is may be required. You can also perform, of course, your visual check just to see what was potting. So end of 2020, excuse me. Why am I getting all number blind? Okay, December 2020. We're going to be looking at what planet was showing us at that time. Yes, okay. Nice green, clear. But then maybe June of 2024, what did that look like? Okay, we're seeing some clearance going on here. And the overlap with that natural forested area is on what appears to be a slope here. So doing a little bit of a visual back and forth toggle just to understand exactly what we're looking at may be important. And please keep in mind cloud cover. We'd love to control everything. Clouds are not one of them yet, unfortunately. But here, very lush green. And then if we go through to 2024, that could be an area of concern. Yes, clouds, nice. Yeah, we're seeing a big difference here. So that would be something to bring to your producers and say, okay, listen, this is exactly what we're seeing. Can you explain what's going on here? Can you give us a rationale as to whether this was going to be planted again as timber or whether it was another reason? Maybe there was an infestation of something or a bit of a landslide, who knows? Okay. But we here did see an overlap with a protected area. And this is where you kind of want to use the map to also classify that and best understand what is the overlap. So in this case, it's protected landscape or seascape, I believe. And just looking at the color. And what's important, yet again, with every single one of our data sets where there's confusion or questions, please toggle through to the metadata or the information sources and go through to the different definitions of protected areas for you to best understand what that means within that specific area as well. So that will be very helpful. But because we're in Brazil, we also want to check Brazil biomes as well as the protest deforestation data. This will really help complete that picture for you and get a better understanding of what's happening there. So we have the, I believe this color, yet again, please go through to the Brazil biome sources and investigate what this will mean for you, as well as the protists. We're not seeing anything registered here, I believe. Let's do some house cleaning. No, protist is not coming up with anything. So it seems that according to this layer, you're fine. So With that, that's the general workflow that you'll step through. We have a third location, of course. You will go through the step-by-steps here, understand what this means. Maybe what's important to also showcase to you is you can go through to integrated deforestation alerts instead of the forest change or the tree cover loss, and see what's going on there. So this is, of course, the start of this year through to this year, and we're seeing a middle of the road high confidence here. Of forest loss, but yet again, you can use your planet data, double check here, and make sure that you're comfortable with the change. It looks like it completely overlaps, by the way, with what is known as planted area. So in my mind, this is a nice example of we're good. This is a false positive. All right, I think I have navigated through the workflows here. Are there any examples? Questions I can give for examples.
Wow, this is such a very comprehensive, also complicated a little bit, if I may use the word, process, especially if anyone who really haven't really used the platform before, so this can be quite big step. Any quick concerns or questions for Jessica for now before we moving on? Jessica, did you say that there is also a tutorial video that you would be able to share with us later so that we can go through the step by step again?
Yes, so there's actually, in my presentation to you, I have prepared a outline of what I've just walked through with you.
Excellent.
So it will tell you exactly what you're looking at, and yeah, basically all the views that we've just popped through today. So you can follow through. I can also share this data set if you'd like to upload it, and then kind of experiment yourself. I'm happy to do that. But yet again, I think it seems like a steep learning curve on the front end, and that can be the case. But I'm here and we do one-on-one demos. We can talk about your specific use cases and your data. So we're very much here to facilitate that process. Use us, please. We're here.
Perfect. That would be really helpful, the one-to-one demo especially. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. I think a lot of kind of what our meetings have been up to date is with the UK trading our position as like a third country in EUDR is sort of we're still in a position or a situation of discovery and understanding how far we need to go for our European counterparts if we're trading with the EU. And a lot of us are thinking, well, like you've just demonstrated there, we'll gather documentation, GeoJSON files from countries we're dealing with. Then if we're selling that to Europe, it's how do we then verify that is not going to cause a problem with deforestation? So knowing about tools like Global Forest Watch Pro there really helps us paint that picture of like a sort of tool set we can create to help us with that. So thanks again for going through all that. I don't think I had any specific questions. I mentioned to you before the call, Jessica, that I've used Global Forest Watch non-pro for country risk analysis. So I'm understanding the countries we're dealing with. But just opening up if anyone else has kind of had any experience with using Global Forest Watch or Global Forest Watch Pro, if they have any further questions in this chat.
Maybe not yet.
Yeah.
They can come back.
Thrown a lot.
Yeah.
Can come back. Yes.
As well, if there are no questions, Jessica, I know that we'll have a copy of your slides at the end of this,
yes.
and we'll have your contact details to be in touch with anything. I think I'm definitely looking at it from our team having a bit of an explore into it to see how it can help with some of our supply chains. Like many of the members on this call, we get a lot of supply chain requests from customers dealing with higher end retail customers or exporting customers, and the EUDR questions are coming thick and fast now. So it's making sure we're fully equipped to give real peace of mind on that.
Yes, and that's absolutely fine. I recognize that through a lot of you. I've also just popped 2 other resources from WRI in the chat here, the Open Timber Portal, as well as the new European Forest app. But essentially, I think the message here is that, you know, there's this reasonable place to start with open source data. It is cost effective, it's global in nature, it is that baseline. So this is important to keep in mind. And I think when it comes to the EUDR being implemented on the front end, regulators and competent authorities are looking for reasonable and improving approach to your supply chain monitoring. So it may not be perfect on the front end, but that you've actually put effort into creating a process that can improve over time. They're also looking for blatant fraud. So making sure that your locations, your geometries are not sitting in the middle of the desert where it was never going to be an issue. So, you know, it's a huge lift in of itself to just get the polygons from your locations. And I think that's also a reasonable consideration to keep in mind. If you back that up with a nicely documented approach that you know will improve over time, same as your thresholds. If it's something where you like, I don't think we can have a zero tolerance yet, you know, this is just not feasible in LATAM or Africa, then what is your threshold? And can you rationalize that we endeavor to improve and work with our sourcing partners over time to make sure that this comes down? So that's maybe a little bit of an insight from our research department. I also do want to offer that, you know, if there's any doubt with the interpretation of the regulation, we have a whole team that has basically dedicated their time to understanding it and setting up kind of translations to various sections of it. So we are a resource in that capacity as well. When in doubt, ask, and we're one of those entities to ask. I think a final plug is that we're not saying this is instead of other solutions provided on the market. Using both is very reasonable, and setting up a process that you feel comfortable with is the most important.
Thank you very much, Jessica. We still have a few more slides, don't we? Or is that the end already? Sorry, I do have a few questions as well.
From my side, no more slides. I think we ended with the demo there. Yeah, so over to any questions that you may have.
Am I right in thinking, Jessica, the rest of the slides were a snapshot of the demo you've just gone through?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That's where yeah, completely, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Jessica. I was wondering whether you could explain to us a bit more what type of clients are using Global Forest Watch. Where are they sitting in their supply chain? How do they use the platform?
Yes. Great question. So as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a varied bunch. So we are servicing across all of the EUDR applicable commodities plus. When it comes to timber, pulp, and paper, we're typically seeing the operators coming through to us. But we're also seeing service providers who are catering directly to your industry, coming up and saying, okay, we're going to specialize here. We're going to offer an end-to-end solution. So a facilitation of data acquisition along with you, through to integrating our data analytics into their system. And they will ingest the reporting into your due diligence statement, and they'll even submit it to tracers. So this, we have some partners in mind. If you're interested, I'm happy to get in touch with you one-on-one to connect you if needed. But the point here is that it's quite diverse. We are seeing some parties say, okay, you know what, we actually just do our initial checks with you. So of all of our locations, we'll send them through to your system. When we have high risk locations that are showing considerable, like, let's say 1% or higher, tree cover loss on them, that's where we then take that subset of locations and send it through to another partner, or say, okay, we have a due diligence process that works directly with our producers, and we've got to follow that procedure now. So you can almost tier your efforts based on these initial insights that you receive from Global Forest Watch Pro and WRI. That's another approach that's taken by our users. So, and okay, the last is that there's the basic use of our application, and then there's integrations into their internal systems where they are calling the reports, they'll send in their locations, and then the report will come back, that detailed CSV, that last Excel view that I showed, and then they automating the extraction of that information and plugging it into their reports as they see fit, and then submitting that to traces. So yeah, from doing it manually yourself through to hiring through third parties to do the entire process for you, through setting up a unique process within the organization themselves and then automating it. This is kind of what we're seeing manifest at the moment.
Thank you, Jessica. And do you also have partners that you work with who may do more ground level investigation should there be concerns on, say, more than 1% forest cover loss in a certain region? Would they be able to go to the actual place to do further investigation?
That's a great question. We do have collaborators that we have worked with on various projects, so time-bound projects that are working directly with producers. I am not aware of active projects in the timber sector, but more so in cacao and coffee. But these are good examples of where, you know, the projects that led to the integration of the national data sets into Global Forest Watch Pro, these were multi-stakeholder projects that were also in touch with the producing parties. And as a result, various workflows were set up within those projects. That said, WRI and Global Forest Watch Pro specifically does not offer services that will complete that entire process for you. We do offer an app called Forest Watcher. And that is actually a forest management tool that plugs into Global Forest Watch. And that will allow your partners to collect their geometry or their polygon data and input it into the app for you to download it then. So that's one way of tackling this. We have workflows that have been set up in Latin America. If you are interested in that, I can connect you through to our team there to see how they've advised particular parties. I, of course, deal primarily with traders, operators. So typically, they already have the data, but my counterparts in Latin America, for example, they have gone through these workflows, and I'd be happy to get you guys in touch.
Thank you so much. The reason of me asking that is Open Timber Portal, also a product of WRI, and I know that they work with local NGOs or forest monitoring organizations, if that is the terminology. So they would do a lot of investigation on the ground to validate a certain risk alert. It seems like if both methodology can be combined, or
Yeah, that's a really great point. I think that's a good example of like a project-specific execution and outcome versus a fluid and dynamic service provision. At this point, we really step in as okay, you have an area you want to get insights into. We'll provide you those insights at the levels that we can, those global data sets that we can. And then from there, set up your processes. Whether this matures into something else in the future, we'll see. Okay. But the point right now is that we come in as your data partner, and you can rely on our data.
I understand it. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Is there any
We have
questions?
actually had a question from Philippa in the chat, which I think is Philippa. Has Philippa got a microphone? Are you able, or do you want me to just read out?
Hello. Hi.
Hello,
Hi, Philippa.
Philippa.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation. It's really helpful. So I currently use the free version of Global Forest Watch, and I also use Forest Watcher. So I upload polygons into Forest Watcher, and then you can analyze them in Global Forest Watch. So my question generally would be, you know, how would that benefit me getting the Pro? Would I get a better analysis of deforestation? And I think in the same line, when you use Global Forest Watch in the interactive map, it has the land use that you can put logging areas, and I've realized recently that that's not really updated. So if I get the Pro, will all of this be already there?
That's a great question, Philippa. And I think this is where we also see big overlaps, but then also big differences. So all the tree cover loss and alerts within Global Forest Watch and Pro, they the same. So you're not getting an advanced version of that. We currently do not have forest concessions in Pro. That is something under discussion. But yes, it is in flagship, and I believe that the updates are also under discussion, although I don't know where it is at the moment. So when it comes to the advantages, really it comes down to the ability to manage your locations, which I think you can do in Forest Watcher as well, quite well. But the point here is that you can do it at scale. And then you also have the tailored report. So the combination of all those data sets coming together that you do not have in Global Forest Watch. So you're getting really bang for your buck in one moment, where you're getting insights into, what is the base map, the TCL, the indigenous communities, protected lands, so on and so forth. You're getting all in one report, for a little bit of effort. If you're happy to do this manually, then do so. But please keep in mind that various data sets, when brought together, it's not apples and apples always. There's different approaches, different resampling, different data science methods to each of them. So when they're brought together and harmonized, there is a level of due diligence and responsibility there as well. That's done for you in Pro. And our methodology will be for the post 2020, for example. I will share that with you when that is released next week. Essentially, this is all delineated for you. So the advantage there is that we've done the lift, and you can also assess at scale, but we're very similar. I mean, at the end of the day, these are open source data sets. They're freely available, apart from one caveat. Global Forest Watch Pro, we have done our due diligence to make sure that every data set available can be commercially used. Meaning, if a service provider, for example, wants to ingest our data and release that to their clients and sell that they're able to do that. And there's one data set in particular, the protected areas data set, which is available in public edition, but is not available for commercial use. We've licensed it for commercial use in Global Forest Watch Pro. So these are really the small text when it comes to data management and data administration. We've done that lift. So it really comes down to your use case, Philippa, and how are you going to be using this, whether it's at scale. Is it really necessary for you to, or possible for you to run through all of the necessary layers to get that comprehensive view of what's going on, or is it just easier to run it through Pro? I think it comes down to that specifically.
Thank you.
And I do want to actually add land use. We won't have land use per se, although we have a couple data sets that delineate that in Pro. We will have drivers of deforestation or forest loss coming in. That is currently in the public edition, but that will be coming into Global Forest Watch Pro, as well as the DIFT alerts. So those are also very soon going to be in Global Forest Watch Pro.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks for your question, Philippa, on that. Do you have anything further, Zhao? I saw you.
Not yet.
No. We're just wondering if anyone else has any questions for Jessica.
Has anyone used the Global Forest Watch Pro platform apart from Philippa and Joe? Anyone else has used the platform and would like to share any thought or experience? If not, maybe we can have a play around after today, following Jessica's print screen of the step-by-step guidance.
Sorry, I do have another question, sorry.
Oh, Philippa, hi.
Is there a trial version we could we could practice in, or do we have to purchase it straight away?
Oh, so it's free to start. There's no purchase required. It's only if you go over the free usage that we ask you to then, it's like airtime. You can top up your usage or not. As I said, it's 5,000 reports that you have and 100 million hectares. So yeah, if you sign up, please do sign up with your company name and your company affiliated personal email address. We'll then grant you access, and that will now be your company instance. You can add extra people to your account. You can set different visibility levels for them, whether they be administrator, an analyst, or a viewer, and then play around. Maybe start with smaller locations and not as many hectares, for example, if you don't want to cut into your free usage too much. If you want to, soon after getting access, set up a demo call where we can just run through this systematically and I'm not just throwing everything at you at once, then please do get in contact. I'm happy to. And then we, of course, also have that help center self-service step-by-step run through. So they can also, give you that guardrail as you begin to play around.
Okay, thank you. And can you transfer data from, if you had an account already, if you want to transfer? No.
From Global Forest Watch Public Edition, you mean, or Forest Watcher?
I mean, I think I have both data in both of them. So if I wanted to transfer one area,
it's going to be a download re-upload moment.
Okay.
Yeah. And that saving in draft is also, leverage that as your sanity check moment too, if you're in doubt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Philippa.
I don't know if there's anything further on that. No.
Doesn't look like it. No,
it doesn't look like it. But if you're happy, Jessica, I'm happy to close off there. But thank you again for that in-depth presentation and for going through that. Yeah, really, really detailed, but useful. I found from my side, and I'm sure the attendees here felt the same. And it's kind of raised a few thoughts for consideration for our own internal processes. I'm hoping it's done the same.
Jessica has already left your email address in the chat. I think maybe we could invite you back maybe a few months later to give us a bit of time just to play around and to get familiar with the platform and to accumulate a bit more questions. And then maybe in the near future, we can invite Jessica back again.
Yes, please feel free and reach out. We will follow this up, I think, Zhao and Joe, with some more details. I'll outline where to sign up. And ultimately, if we need to dig into the regulation a little bit more, we can tap into our research folk. If we need to get into the data science a bit more, we also have our scientists here. So open to it. And thank you all very much for the opportunity. It's been a delight.